Welcome back to Me First with your host, Drew, the resident jokester with a heart of gold, and Amanda, optimistic space cadet who sees opportunity everywhere. We dive deep into everything from navigating love and family to crushing your business goals, all with a heaping helping of conversation and good humor. So make sure you subscribe and join the Me First fam. New episodes drop 3 weeks out of every month on the second, third, and fourth Thursday. Want to know more about a specific topic? Let us know in the comments. All right, welcome everybody. Drew, how you doing today? I'm doing pretty good. And Sarah, how are you?
Doing awesome. Thank you for having me here.
Love it. Well, welcome everybody to today's episode where we are on show 3 of our 3-part series on routine. So in this episode, we are going to talk about how to set effective routines in your life. In the previous 2 episodes, we talked about the what and the why of routines. So in our first episode of this series, we defined routine as your personal life hack, right? It's like training your brain to do things on autopilot. We focused on 4 categories of routines. So your daily type routines, weekly and monthly, more long-term routines, routines to reach specific goals, and also routines to improve habits. And then in episode 2 of this series, we defined the why behind the importance of routines and some of the challenges that come up. So we broke down the habit loop, right? Cue, craving, response, reward. And that loop makes actions into habits, whether they're good habits or bad habits. And then we talked about habit stacking, which is a method to build stronger habits on top of the things that you do every day. Like one of the examples that we gave was, for me, I try to put my journal or whatever book I'm reading in the same spot where I'm going to drink my coffee. And so I get my coffee, I sit down, and then it's almost like an automatic next step to begin to read or journal. So in today's episode, like I said, we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of the how. So giving you actionable plans and procedures to help you on your way to setting and sticking to some kick-ass routines that will improve your day-to-day and ultimately your life. So as you all can see, we have a special guest today. Special guest. Sarah is joining us all the way from New York, not the city, the state. And a little about Sarah. Sarah is a healer and a nurturer by heart with 15 years of dedicated time spent caring for children. She's a seasoned nursing professional who's worked her way up from pediatrics all the way to managing the fast-paced world of perioperative care. And I had to look that up. Perioperative care is the care that is all around the operation. So when you're getting ready for it, and then the aftercare as well, which thank you for making me learn something. So as a nurse manager, she's honed her leadership skills while continuing to be a beacon of compassion. And I can attest to that firsthand. So beyond the scrub, Sarah's a dynamic force, a successful business owner, a loving sister, and the ultimate Thea. I think the kids would agree. The kind that spoils her nieces and nephews rotten with endless cuddles and unforgettable adventures. So we are going to jump in, but Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It was a great intro. I feel like I'm not going to be living up to a lot of that. I'm a superstar.
She's like, you're welcome for being here. So let's dig into the key steps of putting together a routine that work for you, that work for you, Drew. And let's really just kind of dig in. So I broke down the process of setting clear routines into 4 steps. So the first step is around identifying the goals. So what is it that you're trying to accomplish by creating this routine, right? There's doing something for the sake of doing something. No one wants to do that. It will quickly become mundane and very quickly find its way to the round file in whatever, trash receptacle you use. So you have to align your routine with personal goals and motivation. So, for instance, if I had a goal of speaking more frequently or reconnecting with friends or family more, and I also had, say, a drive that's like 20 minutes or so to and from work, maybe a routine that I would be able to make is when I turn my car on, pick up that phone, hit dial, and let the Bluetooth do its thing, right? Do that a couple of times a week. And through that routine, which is an example of habit stacking, you could build a routine or habits and actions that matched your goal that you had set for yourself, right? So step one is identifying what that goal might be. Step two is prioritizing your tasks. So look at all the tasks that you have for each day and eat that frog. So this is a book by Brian Tracy that's been used to help people with prioritization for years. So I remember when I was super, super young in sales, and our sales trainer, who was also our branch manager, he was like super into Brian Tracy, and he would use his material at every Monday morning meeting, like every meeting. And this is back in like 2006. So I think YouTube was around, but it wasn't like, like dynamic and stuff like it is now, if it even was. Or it would be people would upload videos on their website, or they would just have like handouts or reading from books. But I'm like, it was so low tech. But one quote that always stuck with me, one quote that always stuck with me from the book is, if you have to eat two frogs, eat the ugliest one first. So your frog is your biggest, most important task. It's the one that you're most likely to procrastinate if you don't do something about it. So, Drew, Sarah, on this step two, which is prioritizing tasks, I want to ask, what is your frog every day? And how do you prioritize it? What challenges come up? And how do you overcome them? So, Sarah, let's start with you. What's your frog?
My frog, man. Well, I guess just getting up in the morning on time is like such a big thing because I have to be up so early and I have to make it to work on time every day.
What time do you have to be at work?
I have to be there at 7, so I'm usually up. Yeah, usually up by about 5:30, and that is probably my biggest frog. It obviously starts with like an alarm clock, but I've gotten to the point where
Are you snooze master? Snooze.
Technology. High tech solutions. Check
but
this out.
because that's been my like time for so long, I almost have like an internal clock now because of it, because
Yeah.
I made it a point to you know, set my alarm every day, which also leads to going to bed at a reasonable hour so that I know I'm going to wake up. So I'd say like it's an everyday thing for me. Definitely like getting to work on time in the process in which I'm going to get to that.
So let me ask you this. So, your frog being your biggest, most important task, the one that you're likely to procrastinate, would you say that getting to work on time is truly your frog?
Well,
Because I feel like you're going to get
if talking
to.
about something that's like something I'm likely to procrastinate on, it would probably be more of like the gym, trying to get to
Mhm.
the gym. Um, so that's definitely another frog I'd have to eat. Probably the uglier frog.
That's an uglier frog. So,
It's a big
so
frog.
I think that's a pretty ugly frog for most people. I can say that's an ugly frog for me, and I really need to figure out how to like saute that up and kind of season it well, because that that frog don't
Yeah,
look good to me.
put a little bit of slapping on there. Just tear it up.
Just like put some Franks
Just
on
tear
it.
it up. There you go.
Drew,
Easy one to like it's an easy one to negotiate yourself out of too.
yeah.
There's
Oh
so
yeah.
many other things that you could be doing that are probably a little bit more important and more desirable for sure.
Definitely more desirable.
So,
And that conversation is very convincing. I can definitely say. Or maybe I'm just very persuasive. But I do persuade myself out of eating that frog, which I need to figure that life out. Drew, what about you? What's your frog?
Hey, my frog is getting up and going to the gym. So I have a balance that I'm trying to create between cycling and the gym. And as you might not know, Sarah, but Amanda knows I don't often sleep. So I have to try and sleep and still get up early enough so that I can try to master these things. And I'll get up, but then I find myself walking in circles. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll just do this, maybe I'll do that. And I'm just really trying to stay motivated to get to the gym. Now, the cycling piece, I'm pretty good at. I can get up, do that. I enjoy cycling, so that's not really a big deal. But the gym piece, I'm like, there's so many people, they're smelly. I'm like,
Yeah.
do I really need to do that today? Maybe I can just sit down on the couch and think about lifting weights. Yeah, let's do that.
There's so many people, and the air. Why is it that air conditioning systems at gyms aren't the number one priority of gym owners? Like,
maybe it's like they want you to sweat more because that's.
I don't want to,
I
and I
always
don't.
think that though. I'm like, is this meant to be hotter in here?
Yeah, is it like how they keep the hospitals cold?
I think that's infection.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, are they trying to like induce a sauna effect? Because like that is one of my biggest pet peeves about gyms is like you walk in and it's like clammy, like ugh,
Well,
weird.
I have found ways around, like I have found a lot of apps and different things that I can use at home
Mm-hmm.
to help me
Yeah,
kind of
you
get
could
past
work
that
out.
hurdle, because I do find that even just the extra amount of time it takes to get to the gym, getting in my car, driving there, getting out, checking in, finding a machine and where to start. That
Yeah.
is all part of eating the frog too. It's like such a mental thing you have to work on getting through, because that's a lot of work for a lot of people. I mean, it really
You have a
is.
plan on
Finding
what
a
you're gonna
parking
do.
space, like finding a parking space at the gym sometimes is ridiculous, especially at the time that I'm going, because I have to go so early. I have to be at work so early that I'm typically going after work. So
Yeah.
I'm tired. I've had a long day. I got to motivate myself to get there. Now I got to find a parking spot and fight with all these other people that are also just getting there after work. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of that.
Yeah. So those are really good frogs. So the workout one, I think the frog for me is definitely eating right. That's the I think eating is probably the biggest thing that I procrastinate throughout the day and put off eating to the point where I'm in such a cloud and a fog that then I just like ransack or I just make some like horrible decision and I'm like, all right, great. So now I've eaten and I feel like crap. So in order to eat that frog, meal prep has always been a really good tool for me, but haven't been doing it. So later, I think there are some skills that we'll talk about that and some techniques and some research that will be helpful for all of our frogs. So step 3 there is scheduling time. So have y'all heard of time boxing? Where am I?
I'm taking notes on your little steps.
Taking notes? I like notes.
Last episode, she dropped all the time to her friends. You tell me jacked up. Like, all right, I see how it is.
So I'm gonna share this, and if you're watching, then you should see the time boxing example up on the screen. If you're listening, I'll add it to the show notes. You're listening to the Me First podcast, brought to you by 360 Home Services. At 360, our mission is to transform spaces and redefine comfort. Check us out at 360cleanit.com. That's 360CLEANIT.com. You can book right online and get your space transformed. Start redefining your comfort. But this is an example of time boxing. So time boxing is about setting your day up so that you're able to be the most productive. And it's about doing what works best for you, right? So and it's like finding a balance between what works best for you and what is necessary for you to accomplish or get your outcomes. So, for example, if you look at this one, you've got kind of at the very top of the screen, you have strategy. So they have it, this is broken down into your strategy, stuff that you're doing, and it looks like a business owner maybe that you're doing that's focused on strategy. Then Wednesday, Thursday, the second part is actual consulting tasks, and then communications and admin on Friday, and then me time, family time on Sunday. And so then if you go Saturday and Sunday. So then if you go over on the left, you can see that the morning, it looks like, is dedicated to the individual. Then you have your work day, which in my opinion is a little long. And then you have your family or extracurricular stuff in the evening. So then if you dig over into the meat of it, so Monday through Friday from 6 to 6:30, exercise. Now I would assume that for this person, exercise, hopefully that's their frog. Like it's like get up, get out of bed, eat that frog, do my exercise, and then shower, etc., right? Get ready for the day. Looks like they want to have breakfast with their family every day. And so they do that. Whether they're cooking the breakfast or maybe just participating in it. And then throughout the day, what I really liked about this example was, so obviously they've got some things like school runs and things like that. So they got the email, triage, and then their plan for the day at the beginning of each day. So they're not going to be in emails all day, every day, which can be a huge distraction. It's like, no, I look at my emails every morning from 7:30 to 8:30. And I respond to everything that's important. I'll triage them. If there's something that needs to move into one of my other blocks, I'll do that. And then I'm not going to be looking at that again until the next day. So if you're emailing me throughout the middle of the day, don't expect to get a response, is what I'm seeing in this particular time block, which is a really good thing because emails and chats can be a really big distractor for some people during their work day or if they run a business. So then I noticed a couple of blocks that were quick wins, higher focus. So this is very similar to how, for me, I found in my work life, this works really well for me. Is in the beginning of my day, after I've triaged my email, do the things that require high focus for me in the morning, because as the day keeps going, like I am losing focus throughout the day. That is how it works. And by like 3 o'clock, like the things that I'm doing during this low focus time, they better be like fun or something because that's going to be difficult, right? And so that particular example shows that it's not about saying exactly what you're doing in every minute. I think when people hear time blocking, it gets a little overwhelming because you're trying to like look at every individual thing that you need to do and then slot this in here and this and this and this. And it's like, that's not going to work. It's too rigid. And then when this thing, takes 40 minutes instead of 30 minutes, and now you're feeling behind, right? Instead, it's like, okay, during this block, I'm going to do these quick wins, this and that. And then if you noticed on that Sunday evening, they're doing that week plan. If you've been listening to prior episodes, then you know that I use Motion and I really like the tool. But so like on that Sunday, that's when you would go through and start putting your tasks in so that those tasks can get slotted in. And with Motion, you can create actual blocks where you can put like low focus, high focus, quick wins, fun things, whatever. And then when you go to make that task, you say, this is where that needs to go, and it'll find those slots throughout that week. So instead of trying to perfectly design every individual day, you design what productive days look like, and then week by week or day by day, you actually slot in the tasks that make sense for that day. Does that make sense?
Yes. Kind of more of
So
a
have you guys
generalized time instead of every single hour having a specific task or something.
Yeah. So could you see how it could be beneficial to set it up that way rather than the other way? What pitfalls or have you experienced either? Like,
And it takes a
yeah,
lot longer to respond to the messages than what I intended. And then just
yeah,
like an hour later, I'm off doing something else and I've forgotten all about what I needed to do. So let's see what
yeah,
I feel the same. Like, I am one of those people where things just will pop into my head and I'll be like, I need to do that. And then I'll just like stop what I'm doing and like jump to another task. Like I'll be at work and be like, oh, I
yep,
needed to think about this thing for 360. And then I'll suddenly, like, I'll literally have like my time book open for my employees and like doing time cards. And then I'll be like, let me click this tab and open up my 360 emails. What are
an
you doing? So
amazing
I think,
world.
yeah, like if I had more of a, some little sets of blocks where it's like, okay, this time is for A, B, and C. This time is
Yeah.
for, then I would definitely probably be like less distracted and get more accomplished on a lot more things rather than it being scattered throughout the day.
Well, because then you also you almost get to take the pressure off of yourself. Because I know, like, for me, when I'm working, if I'm really like, if I'm having a really great day working, like productivity wise, my text message is gonna, like, I've always told people when I hire people or anything, I'm like, here's my phone number. Text me, don't call me. If I don't have your number on my phone, I'm not gonna answer. Secondly, if you text me during the workday and you had the option to Teams me or G chat me, you're gonna get a faster response if you G chat me or if you Teams me, depending on what environment we're in. True, because
I used to have the teams walk in the office. Hey, can you read your teams? So I just want to put that out there.
well, yeah,
Let's tell the people the
if you
truth now.
but if you would have texted me,
It would have been the
you
same
might
thing.
not have.
Yeah, I wasn't going to get a response either way. That's the point here. Either way.
But that,
Maybe she hadn't done her time blocking yet.
exactly, you just made my point. You're gonna get a faster response with the time with the internal comms, and I would tell people, like, if you email me, to me, that is a lower. You're telling through an email, you're telling me that it's a lower priority, because if it was a higher priority, you would have called. And if you're calling my cell and my number's not in your phone, and then you should have called my office line, because that's the one that's gonna get answered.
Like,
She's not going to take any
email.
blame in this.
There you go. Okay. She's like, it's an email. Oh, you don't even need to speak to me at this point. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing. I've set up these things for you to talk to me, and you're not doing any of it right.
You're doing horribly.
Yes.
It's like an email. You must have been doing that for fun. Must be entertaining. Right. I've broken my point. So the point is that time blocking is valuable and can be used to reduce anxiety and stuff, because instead of trying to perfectly design your day a week ahead of time, which is like, how do you know what Thursday is gonna have to look like for sure until you've actually gone through Monday through Wednesday? Because things are going to no matter what, things are going to roll. They're just going to. No one's perfect. I used to have a method, like my very first prioritization method was actually, I would just write a list of all of the things that I needed to do. And then I would take off that page, and then I would take that list and I would put them in order of how important things were. And throughout the day, I would just scratch off as I got through the list. And at the end of the day, whatever was left, I would put that at the top of the next list. And I would do the same thing every morning. And that was really, really helpful. And then Drew, in one of the episodes about procrastination, you brought up the Eisenhower method. One of the ways to actually create and set up your time block is by going through the Eisenhower method with the categories of things that you're doing on a regular basis. So this is set up not important, important on the y-axis, right? Yes. And then urgent, not urgent on the x-axis.
I was not good at math. You're asking the wrong person.
It's like it's there. I see it.
The goal is that you are doing the things that are urgent and important, and that you are deleting things from your daily, weekly, monthly life that are not important and also not urgent. So the delete bucket is the tasks that distract you from your preferred course. So anything that's taking away from who you are, who you're trying to be, in our example now, you would just want to delete that from your life. Just stop doing it. And then urgent and important are tasks with clear deadlines and significant consequences if not completed in a timely fashion. Now, someone might be able to say, well, going to the gym or eating right doesn't have a clear deadline. It's like, well, it kind of does, because like your life is like kind of important, and you're gonna die or be sick if you don't do these things.
If you don't have your life, you're not doing anything else.
And then things that are important but not urgent, you want to schedule those, right? So the do would be the things that you're doing at the hopefully the top of your day, day, week, month. The not urgent but important are tasks with no set deadline, but that bring you closer to your long-term goals. So those are things that you would want to schedule. So some people might say that you could, oh, well, that's where clean eating, or, well, yeah, it's going to go up here. You definitely want to be doing those things. And then not important but urgent, those are things that you got to delegate. Like if it's not important and it's urgent, there are a couple of ways that I like to think about those things. Like, yes, you have to delegate them. And like, if we're talking about in your career, you have the opportunity to delegate, or in your household and you have the opportunity to delegate. Like if you have kids, or if you have a spouse or a partner that maybe this is something that they can help with. But some things that we think we need to delegate are actually things that we need to delete. And so the delineator here is, do they add measurable value to your life? If they do add measurable value to your life, then you're going to want to find a way to delegate that in some way. So that Eisenhower method and the time boxing or time blocking are two ways to really help in your prioritization and your routine by scheduling time. And then step 4. So start small. This is honestly like a huge one, the starting small. One of the biggest mistakes that I know that I make is, I want to say, I'm not a doctor and my therapist hasn't diagnosed me with manic anything yet, but
Glad.
thank you. But I like to say I'll get a wild hair up my ass, right? And all of a sudden I'm hyper motivated, and everything, this is boom, and now it's like, oh, okay, and this is what my day's gonna look like. And it's like, Amanda, why are you setting yourself up for failure? And so you end up in this cycle. I end up in this cycle of peaks and valleys, right? And so what we're gonna dig into now is kind of, now that we know the steps to getting your routine put together, which are step 1, identify your goal. Step 2, prioritize your tasks. Step 3, schedule time. And you can use time boxing and the Eisenhower method. And then step 4 is start small. So you gotta start with small, achievable routines to build habits. Because if you start too big, when your routine hiccups or fails, because it always will. If you start too big, one, I feel like you feel like more bad about yourself. I don't want to use the word like more, like for me, I'm like, feel like more of a failure. I'll just talk about myself, right? And then to get back into that routine, it feels like this huge mountain that you have to climb. And now you're waiting for another, I like to call it manic episode. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to diagnose anybody, but then you have to wait for another manic episode for you to get hyper excited about it in order to start again. And then you end up in this peaks and valleys place, right? So BJ Fogg is the founder of the Behavioral Design Lab at Stanford University. And he wrote a book called Tiny Habits and a method that's called the Tiny Habits Method. And he also designed a system through that lab at Stanford, and that research, called the Fogg Behavior Design. So BJ suggests that behavior changes are more likely to occur when motivation, ability, and prompt are all high. And in his book, Tiny Habits, The Small Changes That Change Everything, he writes, in order to design successful habits and change your behaviors, you should do 3 things. 1, stop judging yourself. 2, take your aspirations and break them down into tiny behaviors. And then 3, embrace mistakes as discoveries and use them to move forward. So those 3 things, I think the first one, especially, so stop judging yourself. That's probably the hardest one for a lot of humans, myself included, to do.
Yes.
Right? So there's also a book by Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule. Now, okay, I gotta ask. There's another well-known 5-second rule in life. Are y'all for it or against it? I gotta know. 5-second rule, yes or no?
Well, let's wait. Hang on. I'm for it, depending on the location, like the setting. Like, there's no 5-second rule in a hospital. It goes down, you're done. It's out. We're not even gonna. We're not talking about it. And around in my house, sometimes also I've got dogs.
Not happening.
It ain't gonna happen probably, but depending on the time and place and who's watching me.
I feel like okay, so remember that there was a couple of girls on a podcast, and the one girl's like, I don't wash my hands when I go to the bathroom. I think it's stupid, and I think a lot of people are lying about washing their hands when they go to the bathroom.
Ooh.
And she said it with her full chest, like,
wow,
whole thing, and it went viral.
So that's awful.
There's another lady that's going viral right now because she says she only makes her kids bathe like once a week. And not that it would make it any better, but her kids are like 8 and 10 or something, 8, 10, and 12 or something like that. So, whoa.
They're
and again,
okay with it. The kids are
whole
okay.
chest. But
taking a shower.
Man, I mean,
to me though, it's like, if I can smell you, then I know you can smell you, and that's all.
Man, so at the risk of being crucified, I hope this goes viral. I have 5-second ruled. I have. And you know when I have? And this is going to be controversial, I think. I've done it while camping.
For sure.
You have
limited resources.
Resources when you're out there, right?
I can see that.
Get that dirt off of there.
Pick that hot dog up and put it right back on the.
Like, it's 8 of us out here. We only had an 8-pack of hot dogs. So there's that. I think it also depends on the type of thing that you dropped, right? Like, if I drop a cracker, I'm more likely to pick it up and smash it than if I dropped like a piece of cheese or
like
fruit
a sucker
or like
that's
that.
already
Something that's like. And if I dropped it on the couch, there's nothing that's gonna make me eat it. Like, there's like hair and no, like that's not gonna happen. So Drew,
My
I gotta know.
My shirt's fair game.
It hasn't even hit the ground if it hit my shirt. Drew, let me 5-second rule. Yes or no?
For it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Yes. It has to be done sometimes, right? And
Yeah.
you know, there are a lot of things that people are out there saying, like there's somebody who's like, anybody who says they wash their hands when they go to the restroom, people only do it in public restrooms. I'm like, that's not true. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. And now I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say there isn't a time that I haven't like woke up from a dead sleep and gone pee and gone back to bed. I'm not gonna lie.
I was gonna say, like, or maybe just did a quick turn the faucet on, turn it off. Really did nothing, but I felt subconsciously better about it. You know, like in the middle of the night, it's like
I'm asleep.
Ma'am, do you remember when I shared my washing hands philosophy with you in the bathroom?
Yes, caught me way off guard.
But you were so messed up with that. You were like, "What?"
Because I was like, I'm about to go.
I was like, so this was my thought. She was in the bathroom, and I said, you know, have you ever thought about it? I was like, people come to the restroom, they go to the bathroom, and everybody makes this big fuss, and they're like, oh, you don't wash your hands. But you literally come from outside working, wherever you were at, go to the bathroom, especially I guess for men and women, but you go to the bathroom, you don't wash your hands before you use the restroom, but you are literally touching your body. Nobody thinks about it like that, but it's like this big ordeal behind not washing after you use the restroom.
I'm going to throw one even more at you because
here we go.
In the nursing world, in the medical world, really, I feel you're taught to turn off the faucet with a paper towel because you just touched the faucet that you're turning on with your dirty hands that you just touched whatever you touched. So now you're just retouching those germs. But in most bathrooms, what do you have? A hand towel. You don't have.
I saw something the other day.
I use my elbow sometimes. You know, I just be trying to.
This meme like spoke to my life. It wasn't a meme. It was a TikTok. But this lady was like, for businesses that only have hand dryers in the restroom, like grow up. Like, and I feel that to my core. Like, I hate, and maybe it's wrong, but I hate the thought of sucking in bathroom air and then blowing it on my hands. And then when you make that my only option, and then there's nothing to like open the door. Freaks me out.
I never even thought of where the air was coming from. You had to just put
right. You just ruined it for me, Amanda. Way to go.
And they're like, "Oh, there's filtration system." I'm like, "Look, if you."
Oh man.
Like,
if I see it, I'm leaving.
Tap water and you're blowing bathroom air on your hands because there's a filter?
No, I'm not going to be right. Ever since you said that. So now when I go into a restroom, I'm going to see it. And I'm like, no, I'm not blowing any boo-boo air on my hands. I'm leaving. It's just going to be on my mind. Yeah.
You guys look it up after the show because I know we gotta move on, but there's been tests done that like okay, when I worked in the restaurant industry, I remember when the first time I found out that so you have the big ice machine, right? There's filters in that. Drew, you know from your experience, right? These restaurants are not changing these filters on time properly. They're just not. And the whole Brita thing, the filtered water that's coming out of the soda machine, yeah, right. Like they are not changing those filters. Like things like that are the first things to get knocked off when sales are low. When sales are low, they'll be like, "Oh, well yeah, push the water guy out, you know. If it's not eco or Sani whatever it's called, if it's not being tested by the food police, it's getting pushed down the priority." So same thing, that ice floating in your clean filtered water, like, okay, yeah, right. So with all of that said, for everyone who doesn't drink tap water, are you blowing toilet water on your hands, toilet air on your hands? So I'm just gonna throw that all the way out there. But anyways, so BJ Fogg, Tiny Habits, and Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. So I haven't read Mel Robbins' book because she did write a book, The 5-Second Rule, but I did watch her TED Talk, and BJ Fogg's research is somewhat new to me. I've heard of the book, I haven't read it, but I'm going to because I was looking at the research as I was researching for this show, and I really love the thought behind it. So in Mel's TED Talk, though, there were a lot of great points that she made about the 5-second rule, but the premise is to take action before self-doubt kicks in. And usually that's going to be in about 5 seconds. So it's a super simple concept, but in my opinion, it's like a game changer in life. And my nephew came to me, I guess a month or so ago, and he wanted to put together an event. He wanted some help, my help with planning it and putting it together. I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm down. Right. And then I'm like, got to find a location, this place downtown that has events, but they're not usually open on Friday. But maybe if I ask them, they'll be like, yeah. In just a moment, in 5 seconds, I can talk myself out of the ask, right? Which the ask is just one small step that's going to get this goal accomplished. And it's the same thing with our routines, right? So I did ask. I asked, and they were like, they're more excited about it than we are. And with our routines, it's the same thing. And I remember when I used to have to be at work at 5 a.m. And there's this one dude, he worked my same shift, and he's like, girl, you're gonna get fired. And I was like, it is 5 in the morning. And not only do I have to be here at 5, like I am expected to be ready to take phone calls. And who is calling a web hosting company at 5 a.m.? Like, what the heck is going on? Why do you need technical support right now? But, that's 8 a.m. on the East Coast. Still, he told me, look, I've been doing this shift a long time. And he said, put your feet on the ground. When your alarm clock goes off, put your feet on the ground. And I was like, what? And he's like, put your feet on the ground. Make your feet touch the ground when your alarm clock goes off. Don't touch the alarm clock. Don't roll over on your pillow. Don't think about it. Just put your feet on the ground. And he said, and say that, put your feet on the ground. And I started saying that. My alarm clock would go off, and I was able, before I went to bed, I would say, put your feet on the ground, put your feet on the ground, put your feet on the ground. And when my alarm clock would go off, I would say, put your feet on the ground. And I would like force myself, boom, boom. And next thing you know, it started being not so crappy. Like it was just like this thing, right? So the 5-second rule, or tiny habits, are what we actually stack on top to make big habits. And, large daunting tasks can feel overwhelming and lead to procrastination. But if we're able to apply our 5-second rule to our personal scenario, then it can be more successful, right? So instead of a generic exercise routine, start with a 2-minute commitment to put your workout clothes on. Doing some jumping jacks, right? Sometimes once you start, you're like, oh, this isn't so bad, right? And then you keep doing it. So let me ask, what are some 5-second things that you can think of that are helpful for a routine? And Drew, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to you, Sarah. What are like 1 or 2 5-second rule tasks that could be helpful?
Cycling closer.
Mm-hmm.
Just have them there so that when I do get up, that's not something I need to do.
Yeah. What about you, Sarah? What's a either 5-second or a 2-minute thing that you can do to jumpstart a routine?
I think writing it down for me, making it visual, whether it's in my phone, on my planner, or a sticky note, even, like something that somewhere that I know I'm going to see it, because then I'm going to be more like, I'm going to see it. It's going to ding on my phone. It's going to be on my planner when I open it up. It's going to be on the sticky note when I sit down at my computer in the morning. And it's just going to be one additional reminder of saying, don't forget that's something that you really wanted to do today or this week or whatever it is,
Yeah.
especially working out, writing it down and being realistic about it too. Like, can't, like you said, it can't be some like unattainable goal. Like, I'm going to work out for an hour every day of every week. Like, no, I'm going to pick 3 days where I know I can make it to the gym, or I'm going to work
Yeah.
out regardless if it's the gym or not. And then I can decide later after my 5 seconds, okay, how much time can I allot to that? But that I know I've made an effort to put it as a visual and something that I can actually like, it's attainable.
This episode of Me First is brought to you by Maine Lockology. At Maine Lockology, we pride ourselves in making every head we touch look amazing. Located inside Salon Boutique at 3163 South McClintock Drive, Suite 12 in Tempe, Arizona. Check out our work on Facebook or Instagram at Maine Lockology. That's MANELOCOLOGY. Or book online at mainlockologyllc.booksy.com. Yeah. I had this real old-timey manager, and he said that he's an old dude. He was cool, but he said one time I had this deal, and the client had this was deciding to go with a lower option rather than the one that that I had recommended. So, but he was like, "Some oats are better than no oats," and he said his dad used to tell him that, and it was just like sounded like a really just old person thing to say. Like, some oats are better than no oats, but what you just said made me think of that, because some people, like some people, I'm some people, right? I tell myself I need to I tell myself, all right, I got to move for 30 minutes every day. So if one day I'm like running late or something, or something else, a frog pops up, and I'm like, I can't work out for a full 30 minutes. It's like, okay, work out for 5, work out for 10, right? Something is better than nothing.
Yep.
But sometimes it's hard to remind ourselves of that. And so we get like kind of stuck. And then what you also said was with the write it down, correlating to what my old office mate told me. Pick up the pen, open the notebook. That's the 5-second thing, right? What I in Mel's TED Talk, she talked about sending the email, right? If you have an idea of partnering with a company or with a person or something, and it might be LinkedIn, right? You have an idea of forging a relationship with someone, doing a discovery call, seeing if your business can be a good fit for them. Send the message, send the email, like write the email, just right when the idea pops into your head. Hey, I was just thinking about XYZ business and how you guys are focused on this. And I'm not sure if you're aware of what I do. And I know we haven't met yet, but I really think there could be some synergies. Would you be open to a 5 to 10 minute chat over some coffee? Right. And send the message before you think about it. Just send the message. Right. So that's one of the things that she talked about that was really really great. So yeah, that exercise routine, start with a 2-minute commitment to putting your workout clothes on or doing some jumping jacks. Then there's the habit stacking piece that we've talked about before, right? Attach it to something else that you already do. A bunch of people walking around living life in basketball shorts and leggings. You're already dressed for the gym. Just grab your keys and your water bottle and head on out. A personal hurdle with sticking to a routine, I think there are a lot that the individuals have. I have my very own, and we've gone over quite a few stories and anecdotes. So would love to hear from some of you out in listening world to share your triumphs and challenges and any creative things that you do to make your routine run more smoothly. There's also the apps out there. Again, Motion's not paying me yet, but I really do like the tool. I think it's a good tool. But there are other apps out there. I've heard some people like ClickUp. I tried it. Honestly, I've like tried them all. Some people like ClickUp. It wasn't for me. Google
Second
Keep.
one that you had us all download. I was using it for a little bit.
Mm,
It, like every
I know
morning
what
would tell me to drink water.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Dang it.
It was something routine or routine something.
Yeah, that one was good though. I mean, the way it was set up.
It was good. It was just kind of it was another app. And so I think the reason Motion works for me is because it takes habit stacking into account, because Motion it's a calendar app at its source, and I already live by my calendar. So what it did was move all my calendars together and then give me the checklist option. Motion actually felt like it brought everything into one thing, so it simplified it for me, I think was why it worked. So the biggest thing is forgive yourself for the slip ups. Getting back on track for a missed routine and avoiding discouragement, not judging yourself is going to be probably the biggest asset, because as soon as we start to get down on ourselves, that's when the thought distortions start to come in. Oh, I didn't do it again. I'm never going to be able to do it. Whatever those thought distortions are. And that's just going to hold you back. It's not going to make it any better. And so I want to ask Drew, Sarah. So Sarah, we'll go to you first and then to Drew this time. What is one key takeaway for setting and maintaining an effective routine?
Like, identifying the goal, because sometimes you get into routines and you're not even sure why, so having a routine that has a meaningful outcome, or that you're doing it for a reason.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to start for any new routine that you're trying to create. So I really liked that piece when you were talking about, eat the frog. Like, what is your biggest, ugliest one that you need to tackle first?
Yeah. That's really great that you said that, and the starting with figuring out what the goal is. And then obviously, Simon Sinek has his famous TED Talk and book and methodology around start with why. And if you've ever been in a coaching program of almost any sort that's kind of worth its salt, what do they do first? They have you define your why. What are you doing this for, right? And getting down to your why means that when things get tough, you can look back and say, is this trip to Japan as important to you as you said it was? Is climbing that mountain or doing this backpacking trip or being able to go to Jamaica and cycle with the group, is that as important as you said? Okay, well, you better hit these things, right? So that why is super, super important. So good call. Drew, what about you?
So probably prioritizing tasks for me. Sometimes, some days I have more tasks. I think I can some things.
Yeah.
They probably really.
That's really good. That reminds me, I had a mentor tell me once. I was like having a one-on-one, and I was like, man, everyone is sending me messages with questions all day long. They're asking me questions that they could find themselves, or they're asking me questions that I am going to resources that they have access to find the answer to give to them. And they're just assuming because I know how to find it that I knew the answer, and I didn't. And I'm like doing this whole thing. And he's like, Miller, so what? Have you ever thought about just letting the messages sit? And I was like, but is it my job to answer? He's like, you're complaining about it. It's obviously something that's bothering you. Have you thought about just not answering?
And
he's
they're
like, what
going
do
to
you think?
figure it out if they really want to know.
He's like, what do you think's going to happen if you don't answer it? I'm like, well, they're going to either figure it out or they're going to find somebody else to ask. And he's like, try it. The number of, hey, never mind, I figured it out, messages I started to get
Works
after
like a
10,
charm.
15 minutes, I was like, this is amazing. Getting all kinds of time back in my day. But it was a me problem. It wasn't a them problem. I was enabling the behavior and then being upset about it, right? And so prioritization, right? Something that was taking a lot of my day was responding to messages because I thought that was something that was important in the day. And at the end of the day, no, it wasn't. Like instead of responding to these messages, I could have been listening to calls, helping them to get more sales, right? So that was a really good one.
I just taught myself that same lesson just a few weeks ago. Look at it. I was like, nope, I'm not doing that.
No, they'll
get it.
They'll figure it out. Or in the other thing that he suggested was really petty. He's like, or you could just respond, have you checked Insight? And like, I was like, that's kind of petty. He's like, eh. He's like, you can let it sit, or you could ask them if they already looked at the thing you're going to look at. Did you try Googling it? Like, you know, so they're fair questions, right?
So now I'm gonna know when I ask you something.
All right. Now it's not gonna work, Amanda.
Man,
I've used all my resources. What?
Well, but then what also started to happen was, hey, I checked Insight. I'm not seeing it there. I'm seeing a lot of conflicting information on Google. Do you know blah, 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 blah?
Right.
And then I'm like, okay.
More
you try. Routines are not easy, but they can be made to be simple. And I think determining the difference between simple and easy is a really important thing for us all to do, because simplifying something doesn't mean it's going to be like lickety split, easy peasy. There's no friction in it or anything like that. It just means we're going to take the noise out of it, right? So we set the goal, we prioritize, we will schedule the time, and we'll give ourselves some grace. So out there in listening and watching land, share your routines, your tips, your success stories. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a comment with your biggest routine challenge, and we might discuss it on the show, or we can always respond on whatever platform you're messaging on. And Sarah, thank you for joining us today for this episode. I've had a lot of fun talking routine. Next, Drew, keep me honest. We're going to be tackling toxic positivity. All right. So we're going to dig into some toxic positivity and learn from Drew in our next series. So thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you on the flip side.